You answer the email instantly. You volunteer for the extra shift. You reorganize your desk at 11:47 p.m. even though you're exhausted. You say yes before your body has time to say anything at all. Your calendar is full. Your phone is always buzzing. There's always something to improve, respond to, fix, optimize. From the outside, it looks like ambition. It looks like discipline. It even looks like confidence. But sometimes, when everything finally goes quiet, you feel a strange discomfort, a restlessness, like the silence itself is too loud. And without thinking, you reach for something to do, not because you have to, but because you can't quite sit still with your own mind. Why does being busy feel safer than being alone with your thoughts? First, let's say something clearly. You are not broken. If you stay busy to avoid your thoughts, your brain is not malfunctioning. It is protecting you in the only way it knows how. The mind does not create habits randomly. It builds strategies, especially when something inside feels overwhelming, uncertain, or unfinished. Staying busy makes psychological sense. Your nervous system prefers predictability. It prefers structure. It prefers movement over stillness when stillness feels unsafe. If your thoughts tend to drift toward regret, self-criticism, loneliness, or unresolved memories, your brain will look for an exit, and productivity is a socially rewarded exit. No one questions someone who is driven. No one criticizes someone who is always working. Busy looks healthy. Avoidance often hides inside it quietly. Think about when it usually happens. You finish a long day. You finally sit down. There's no task left. No one needs anything from you. The house is quiet. The notifications stop. And then your mind starts replaying things. That awkward comment from earlier, that relationship that didn't work, that decision you still question. The brain does not like unresolved emotional material. It treats it like unfinished business. And when there's no external input, internal input gets louder. So you open your laptop again. You scroll. You reorganize something. You plan tomorrow. This isn't laziness in reverse. It's cognitive load management. Your brain can only focus on so much at once. When you flood it with tasks, it has less space for emotional noise. Productivity becomes a form of mental noise canceling. Work fills the room so the echoes can't bounce around. This often begins early. Maybe growing up, staying busy meant staying safe. Maybe chaos happened in stillness. Maybe quiet moments came with tension, unpredictability, or criticism. Children learn quickly what regulates their environment. Some learn that being helpful keeps things stable. Some learn that being high-achieving keeps them valued. Some learn that distraction keeps them from feeling something too big. So they move. They accomplish. They stay ahead of the silence. Attachment plays a quiet role here. If closeness felt inconsistent or attention felt conditional, achievement can become a substitute for emotional security. You don't have to sit with the fear of disconnection if you're focused on performance. You don't have to ask, "Am I enough?" if you're constantly proving that you are. Busyness becomes relational armor. It keeps you from pausing long enough to notice what you need from others. It keeps you from feeling the ache of dependency. It keeps everything structured and self-controlled. Control feels safer than vulnerability. There's also something else happening underneath. Overstimulation has become normal in modern life. Notifications, content, conversations, updates. When your brain gets used to constant input, silence can feel like withdrawal. Stillness isn't neutral anymore. It feels empty, and the mind hates emptiness. It will fill it with anything: tasks, worries, plans, self-criticism, just to avoid the sensation of nothingness. So you schedule more, you optimize more, you improve more. It feels productive, and sometimes it is, but sometimes it's simply a buffer between you and yourself. Work can also protect identity. If you have built your sense of self around being capable, needed, or exceptional, slowing down threatens that identity. Who are you without momentum? If you're not achieving, are you still valuable? If you're not progressing, are you falling behind? These questions don't always speak loudly. They hum underneath everything. Staying busy answers them without you having to consciously ask. I am doing, therefore I am enough. But here's the part nobody talks about. Sometimes the thoughts you're avoiding aren't dramatic or traumatic. They're simply uncomfortable truths, like realizing you're tired, or lonely, or unsure about the direction you're heading. Stillness allows clarity, and clarity can demand change. If you slow down and notice you're unhappy in your job, that awareness asks something of you. If you slow down and notice a relationship feels hollow, that awareness requires courage. Busyness postpones those crossroads. It keeps life in motion so you don't have to evaluate it too closely. There's a nervous system layer here too. When you're constantly active, your body stays in a mild state of sympathetic arousal, alert, engaged, slightly elevated. For some people, that state feels normal, even comforting. If calm used to feel unfamiliar or unsafe, low arousal can feel like vulnerability. So you unconsciously keep yourself just stimulated enough to avoid sinking into it. Productivity becomes a steady hum, a background engine that keeps anxiety from turning inward. Notice how this shows up socially. You're the one who organizes the plans. You respond quickly. You fill the gaps in conversation. Silences make you uneasy. You jump in with another topic, another joke, another plan. It looks like charisma, but sometimes it's protection against emotional exposure. If the conversation slows, what might surface? If there's a pause, what might you feel? Busyness can function as conversational armor. And this is where it gets interesting. Avoidance doesn't always feel like fear. Sometimes it feels like purpose. You genuinely enjoy being productive. You like structure. You like accomplishment. You like building things. And that's real. The adaptation worked so well that it became part of your personality. You're not pretending. You're not consciously running. The brain simply paired movement with safety so many times that they fused. Think about adolescence. At 16, staying busy might mean joining clubs, excelling in school, staying out with friends, anything to avoid going home to your own room and your own thoughts. It felt energetic, restless, a little chaotic. At 25, it might look like career obsession, side projects, networking, constant self-improvement. You tell yourself this is the grind phase, and maybe it is, but it also keeps deeper questions at a distance. At 40, it can feel heavier. Responsibilities stack. Family, finances, expectations. Busyness becomes duty. And sometimes beneath it, there's a quiet fear of what slowing down would reveal about the life you've built. The behavior evolves, the meaning shifts, but the core mechanism remains the same. Movement protects you from inner stillness. There's something tender underneath this. Your thoughts aren't random enemies. They're signals. They carry grief, longing, regret, hope, confusion. They try to integrate your experiences into a coherent story. But if certain experiences were overwhelming, your brain learned to compartmentalize. I'll deal with this later. I don't have time to think about that. And later keeps moving further away. So busyness becomes a quiet control system, like autopilot. As long as you're navigating tasks, you don't have to manually steer your emotional landscape. It's efficient. It's functional. It keeps you moving forward, but it also keeps certain doors closed. You might notice this when you're on vacation. At first, you feel restless. You check emails, you create mini projects, you organize the itinerary obsessively, and then maybe on day 3, something softens. A thought surfaces, a memory, a feeling you didn't expect. Sometimes it's relief, sometimes it's sadness. The mind had been waiting for space. Shame can attach to this pattern. You might call yourself a workaholic, or accuse yourself of being unable to relax, or compare yourself to people who seem effortlessly calm. But shame misses the point. This isn't weakness, it's adaptation. At some point, staying busy genuinely helped you survive something, emotionally, socially, psychologically. Maybe it shielded you from criticism. Maybe it kept you from spiraling into rumination. Maybe it gave you control when other parts of life felt unstable. The brain keeps what works. And here's the paradox. The very thing that once protected you can later limit you. Not because it's bad, but because life changes. The environment shifts. The threats reduce. But the strategy remains on standby. Your system doesn't automatically know it's safe to power down. If you pay attention, there are small clues. The subtle anxiety when there's nothing scheduled, the urge to fill every weekend, the discomfort when your phone battery dies and you're left alone in a waiting room. These moments reveal the gap between external